Welcome to Entrepreneurial Entrails for some short stories on the guts and glories of being an entrepreneur. Hi, it's Elizabeth, and welcome to Entrepreneurial Entrails. Normally I save this type of podcast for like a get to know me Friday situation, but I think, get to know me is kind of an any day activity. So I'm going to share today while it's fresh in my brain. So the first confession I'm going to make to you is that I'm not great with personal health, which is kind of ironic given that I have 13 years in healthcare and have sat on the side of the desk where I'm calling patients and badgering them to take care of themselves and what have you. So I had a situation come up where I needed to go and get it checked out by my GP, and I ended up family doctor, and went yesterday to have a little chitty chat with him. And so one of the things that sort of have kept me from talking to my doctor, although nothing serious has been going on, so I mean it's not like I've been ignoring major life-changing things, but one of the things that sort of kept me back from booking that whole yearly physical thing is that I've gained a bit of weight, which I know is a really dumb reason, but I'm kind of embarrassed that with the amount of knowledge I have in my head, the fact that my husband is a former competitive bodybuilder and my daughter is trained in CanFit Pro, that, mommy has managed to put on 30 pounds since I got married. So it's not a huge amount. I don't shake buildings and, whatever. It makes dressing a little difficult because I am naturally well endowed in the boob area. So, it's made it a little uncomfortable for me. But anyway, that's another little get to know me. There you go. But it was interesting yesterday that, part of what I had to do was, speaking of boobs, I had to get a boob exam. So, my doctor's a man, really fantastic guy, just love him to bits. And there's nothing that I wouldn't discuss with him or what have you. But it was sort of not the embarrassment about how I look, but the embarrassment that I haven't taken care of myself as well as I should, exercise and all that stuff that I know I need to do. And as an entrepreneur, even, it's more important because my business comes down to me, and I've been a goof and I've kind of let it slide. So I go in, determine that, he has to do a boob check. And I said to him, because I wanted to get it off my chest, I said, one of the reasons, excuse me, I haven't come and booked a physical and done all that great stuff is I'm a little embarrassed about my weight. And it was really interesting. And this is what prompts my get to know me today. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, so you hate your weight, do you?" And I was like, I didn't even have time to ponder exactly what he'd said other than to say, no, I don't hate my weight. I'm embarrassed that with the amount of knowledge that I have and what have you, that I've kind of let it get out of control. And so I didn't even think too much about it. And, turns out I don't have anything to worry about and, have to do some tests and whatever. But other than that, boobs are fine. Thanked him for the grope on the way out. He laughed. It was all good. But I got to thinking this morning, the word hate. And it's a word that I have really strong feelings about as far as how easily it's thrown around. And one thing in my house, especially with my kids, is first off, my kids have never said to me, never, ever, ever once, honestly, on a hand of Bibles, they've never said to me, I hate you. It's never happened. They've said it to each other. And I immediately jump in and say, you need to remember that hate is a very powerful word and that you don't have to like each other and you don't have to like what each other's doing, but don't use the word hate because hate is a word that you can't take back. And I think the severity of the word hate and what it really means is getting diluted and getting forgotten. And this may be way more important to me than it is to you. But anyway, it's a word that I don't use lightly. And so for this physician, who again, love and respect, great guy, to say to me, oh, you hate your weight, I found that a really odd thing for him to say, because women as a rule, and I know men battle it on a different level, but women as a rule battle, online and commercials and the media's perception of what we should be and these feelings of hatred that they try and perpetuate to sell the latest shake or wrap or exercise tool or whatever. And I don't fall into that. I can walk out of my house with no makeup and be completely happy. Today I have my sparkle on, so I'm kind of, because I felt like it, not because I need to. And so what my point is if you are in a healthcare position, and this is where it really struck me, because again, 13 years in healthcare, educated in healthcare, I was an office administrator, but still, worked with a variety of specialists, worked in hospital settings, worked in doctors' offices and whatever. And language to patients is really important, really crucial. And when you present something as a catastrophe or a problem or a negative right up front, you're setting that patient's mindset. You're setting how they are going to deal with the issue. And if you in a position of authority as a healthcare professional, and this can be, allopathic, naturopathic, Western medicine, allied health professionals, if you're in massage therapy, dietitian, whatever, and you use a strong word like hate in relation to somebody's health or their body or their psychological situation or what have you, some people might let it roll off their back. I don't know. I think that's a really strong word to use in relation to that. And I strongly advise you to listen to your conversations. I mean, there's a whole ton of other words I could bring up, but just hate's the one for today. That your language as a healthcare professional, or in any industry, but just this happens to stem from healthcare, is a really powerful tool. And when you inadvertently create a negative situation with your language, it can really influence how the conversation, how the treatment, how the transaction, how the sale, how the anything goes. And here's the thing with hate. I don't hate anything about myself. Nothing. There is nothing about me that I hate. There's stuff I know I could change. And it's not that I hate it. It's just I know, clothes would fit better if I lost a little bit of weight. And I would probably not annoy people as much if I put up a stronger filter. I don't hate that about myself. I just, it's something I could work on. And I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I've looked at anything about myself, physically, mentally, socially, whatever, where I've said, oh, damn, I hate that. I hate that about me. That's a really powerful thing to say to yourself as well. Is I hate that. I hate my butt. I hate my boobs. I hate my whatever. And for me, part of what happens to me when I think about my boobs, it seems to be a boob day, I think about the women who don't have the opportunity anymore. I'm going to get teary. To hate their breasts. I think about the women who are dealing with cancer and a variety of health issues, who would love to gain weight, who have to struggle to get the calories in to fight their battle. And I think about the people who struggle every day with things like anorexia and bulimia and what have you. And if you've never disclosed that to your healthcare physician, if you're sort of in a holding pattern where you're on the thin side, but you're not actually into the anorexia or bulimia yet, and your physician says to you, oh, you hate your weight, what does that spark in you? What does that make you start thinking about? Where does that take you on your mental journey around your healthcare situation? And it's a really powerful word. So my thing to you today is, from a personal perspective, try and remove the word hate from your vocabulary. And, there's one thing where you can say, oh, I hate that ice cream. But when you're referring to yourself, take that word out. There's nothing about you. Unless you're some kind of axe-wielding, pedophilic, narcissistic murderer, well then, yeah, you have a few things that you need to hate about yourself. But for the most part, if you live a decent life, you help out in your community, you give back and engage with your family, I don't know, you're just a decent human being, there's nothing about you to hate. Nothing. And using that word to yourself or using it out loud to other people to describe yourself is a really negative thing to do. And if you're a healthcare professional, as much as your patients come in and share their stories and talk about specific issues that they're having and what have you, you never truly know what's going on in their head. You never truly know what they're dealing with. what cusp of choices they might be on as far as dealing with health issues or what have you. You never know what went on that week where somebody else might have attacked them about a health issue and now they're struggling to deal with it and might make a negative choice. So from me to you, hate is a really strong word. Hate carries a lot of weight. And we have enough people on our planet, unfortunately, who use hate as a tool. They use it to bring people down. They use it to forward their own agenda. They use it to create fear. They use it to just bad shit. And just don't do it. Don't jump into the hate pool. If you catch your kids saying to each other, "I hate you," remind them that they don't have to like each other. They don't have to like what's going on, but they do have to love each other. And love cannot exist where hate exists, and hate cannot exist where love exists. And if you remove that word, then you have no choice but to love yourself. Your kids have no choice but to look at each other in a different way and realize that love is better than hate. And if you're a healthcare physician, from me to you, please don't ever use the word hate in a conversation when you're talking about a healthcare issue with a patient. And if a patient uses that, use that as an opportunity to reframe their words and give them positive language to deal with their issue and hopefully change the way they're thinking about themselves, their body, their actions, their whatever. So that's my get to know you for today. Is I don't like the word hate. I think people undervalue the power that it wields. And from me to you, just hate's a bad word. Just get rid of it. It's kind of like saying fuck. Like fuck's a great word, but you can't use it in certain situations, and you shouldn't use hate either. So I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's Tuesday. I love Tuesdays. See, love can't exist, or hate can't exist where love is. That's why I love Mondays. And I hope you're having an awesome week. And as always, just know that you have the guts and glory to create your own story, which I hope you love. And you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram and all those great places at MCVPloof. And that's it. Have a lovely day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Entrepreneurial Entrails is brought to you by MCV Communications. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at MCVPloof, or visit mcvcommunications.ca to find out how we can help your small business communicate better. Thanks for listening and have a great day.